Hi yogis! This is going to be your yoga for flexibility. So anybody that feels really tight in the back of their legs or in their hips or in their shoulders, this is going to be a short practice to help just kind of stretch out all the muscles in our body. So we're going to start in a seated position on your mat or towel or carpet, wherever you are. And let's bring our hands into our center. We call this Anjali Mudra. And all this mudra does is it just helps us connect with our heart. So I always like to invite gratitude in. So inhaling something you're really grateful for. And then as you exhale, allow that gratitude to move through every cell in your body. And let's do a few more of these gratitude breaths. Inhale, bring that gratitude in. And then exhale, allow that gratitude to fill every cell in the body. One more time. Such a great way to start our practice. So we're going to start in butterfly. So bring the pads of the feet together and the knees wide. We can just move the knees up and down slightly a couple of times just to kind of notice how those hips are feeling. And this posture, when sitting upright, like we are now, and moving the knees back and forth, helps target the hips. It just gives us a nice inventory of what's happening in those kind of ball and socket joints, that big joint in our leg. And then you can inhale, hold on to the ankles or the shins, look up. And then as you exhale, rock back on the sit bones. So we call these seated cat and cow. Inhale. Look up, and then exhale, rock back. Let's do this a few times. Inhale, forward, and exhale back. And again, now this is working with our spine and our lower back. So as we inhale, we lengthen, we extend. And as we exhale, we flex, we roll back. Two more. And then using these movements with our breath really helps us tune into the body, helps us be in our body, feel our body, stretch our body. And then last one, inhale, sit up nice and tall. And then as you exhale, come down, roll down. It's okay if the head doesn't meet the toes. You can hold over your toes with your hands and just let the head hang. If you're really flexible, perhaps you can put your head on your feet, or maybe even making two fists and just allowing the head to rest here. Another option is to kind of use the elbows to push the knees down. Again, in yoga, we want to make sure that we're not pushing our body to hurt. We want to make sure that we feel and we can breathe in every posture. 3 more breaths. I like to listen to my breath. Sometimes it sounds like an ocean wave coming in and moving out. And then when you're ready, rolling up nice and slow, vertebrae by vertebrae. Last thing that lifts is the top of your head. And we'll move through those cat and cows again. Seated, inhale, look up. And then exhale, round. A few more times, inhale, roll up. And exhale, roll down. So you may feel your hips starting to open a little bit, your spine starting to find a little more space. Last one. And then come back to that nice seated position. We're going to take the legs nice and wide. So when we're sitting wide, try not to sit back. See how I'm sitting back like this? This is not a posture we want. We want to roll the hips forward and come forward. And then inhale, sit up nice and tall, and then just walk the hands down until you feel a slight pull in the sides of your legs or maybe in the backs of your legs. Just take a couple of breaths here. If you're feeling very flexible today, maybe you can come down onto the forearms, maybe all the way onto the belly, maybe holding the fists and resting the forehead. For me, I'm going to stay up on my hands today. We're going to take 3 breaths here. And so in order to make sure we're stretching the muscles, we need to take about 3 breaths. So a full cycle of breath is an inhale and an exhale. And as you exhale, you can start to direct your breath into any parts of your body that is feeling tight. So for me, the back of my legs. So as I inhale, I'll bring all that energy in, notice the backs of my legs. And then as I exhale, I'm going to move my energy, my breath into the backs of my legs, telling my body to relax and open. One more breath. And then inhale, come all the way up. And just again, notice with that nice lengthened spine. And anytime we lengthen, we picture a string lengthening us up from the crown of the head. We bring our chin slightly in and we lift our heart. So that's a really great way to learn how to keep a nice posture in our body. Now we're going to go to the side. So walk your hands over to the right side. You can turn and then walk your hands down. Again, maybe staying up on the hands, maybe coming down on the forearms, wherever you feel comfortable, but make sure that back seat doesn't lift. Keep both sit bones anchored to the ground. And we're going to take 3 breaths here. Try to keep the feet kind of active. See how my toes are up towards my face, so my feet are flexed, so that my legs are still active, not very passive. One more full breath here. And then roll up, come back to center. Everything we do in yoga and our postures is very mindful, so we notice a lot. Notice how it feels sitting nice and straight. And then let's go to the other side. So turn towards your left side and then exhale and come down. And again, your options to stay on your hands or your forearms. Again, make sure both sit bones are anchored to your mat. 2 more breaths, really noticing this side. And then inhale, come all the way up. Come back to center, notice. Good. Let's bring the legs straight. We're going to inhale and reach our hands up, and then exhale, fold forward. Now we're going to round the body back up. Drag the hands along your floor. Inhale, reach, and exhale, fold forward. So just bringing a little bit of movement and flexion and extension into our spine. So notice how the spine straightens when we lift. And then as we exhale, we come down with a straight spine, and we roll the spine back again, lifting. We're going to do this a few more times. Remember that golden string. So try to get that golden string from the top of your head to lift you up. And then on this one, we're going to exhale, come down, and then just allow ourselves to round down here, stretching the back of the legs. Now, picture your hips pulling back and your heels, your feet pulling forward. So trying to feel those 2 types of tension in your body. Your heels are pulling your feet away and your hips are pulling towards. Now try both hips and feet away. So these very small movements in your body help you just learn a little bit more about being in your body and stretching your body. One more breath. And then inhale, roll up vertebrae by vertebrae. Lengthen the spine, roll the shoulders back. Let's bring the hands behind the body. Let's put 1 foot towards the bum on the floor and lift up. Push the earth away and then exhale, come back down. Sit up nice and tall, notice. Now slide the hands back, the other foot. Press into the mat, lift up. And then come back down and notice. Good. We're going to keep the right foot crossed in front and then bring the left foot back. Keep a nice flex in that front foot. And we're going to come down, and then we're going to walk towards that foot, and then we're going to walk away from the foot towards the knee. We're going to do this a couple times. So getting really curious in how that feels in the body. How far can we go? Keeping both sit bones on the floor to the other side. 1 more each side. So just noticing in your body where it feels a bit tight. And then come back now towards that foot and see if you can come down either again on your hands or your forearms, or maybe coming all the way down, stacking 1 fist on top of the other. Taking 3 breaths here, and this is feeling it in our hip, maybe even the back of our legs. So remember, bringing the energy in with the inhale, and then exhale, breathing into that big joint of the hip. 2 more breaths. On the next inhale, roll up. And then bring the legs to the other side. We're going to do this a couple times. Reach the hands up, and then bring the hands back behind. Switch the legs to the other side. Reach the hands up. One more time each side. Roll to one side, hands up. This helps with mobility, so movement in our hip joint. And now this time we're going to stay on the other side and do the other side. So flex foot, and then getting that curiosity again. So walking towards the knee and then the foot. And just do this a couple times, just noticing in your hips how that feels. One more time. And then coming over by that foot and coming down onto your forearms, maybe even getting the forearm right against that foot if that's possible. If not, you can stay on your hands, or you can come down to your forearms, whatever feels good for your body. Yoga is never about pushing or competing. It really is about just kind of learning and being curious in our own bodies. It's a very mindful activity, a very mindful practice that helps with strength and balance and focus and all of these wonderful things that will help us later on in life. 2 more breaths. And then come back to the center. And this time, if we need to use our hands, we can, but maybe try to just move from side to side again with the hands up. And again, that just shows us where our mobility is in our hips. Some of you may be inching off your mat, which I am. And then coming back to that first side, and we're going to come down onto our back. So tickling the toes, the ankles. We're going to come into bridge pose. Press into the mat, lift the hips, and then interlace the hands underneath your bum. Try to get the shoulders together. Head stays on the ground. Try not to look side to side. Try to look at the ceiling. That's your focal point. And just pushing the feet into the earth, lifting the pelvis up. 2 more breaths. This is great for stretching out back, building strength in our backside. Exhale, release, roll down vertebrae by vertebrae. Bring the knees in towards the chest. Give yourself a hug. Rock and roll the spine. Side to side, back and forth. And just notice how that feels. Do this a couple times. And we're going to get into our hip again. So take the right knee in towards the spine and just start to make circles with one direction. Just notice how that feels. Maybe one hand, maybe 2 hands, maybe even no hands. Whatever feels good. Now switch directions. So again, just getting into the movement of our right hip. This is great if we're doing a lot of sitting. And then bring that knee in. And then just take a few breaths here, breathing into your right hip. This is one of the largest joints in our body, and the joint is where 2 bones intersect. And so when we have 2 large bones intersection, a lot of tension and tightness can be held in this area. So it's a very important place to stretch in our body. And then exhale, release that leg, bring it back down and just notice. Notice how one leg feels. Be curious. And now let's go to the other side. So bring that left knee in and then start to make circles in one direction. Again, 2 hands, maybe 1 hand, maybe no hands, whatever feels good for you in this movement. And let's switch direction. And then bring that knee in, and we'll just take a couple of breaths, stretching the knee in towards our chest, breathing into the left hip. One more breath. And then release that leg and just notice again now in the body, the left and the right hips, right here. Notice how they feel. Notice how the whole body feels after all of those stretches. Do two more. We'll do a twist. So let's turn to the left side and bring your knees in line with your hips and your hands together. As you inhale, find length. And then as you exhale, open into a T. If it feels okay, you can look in that opposite direction from your knees. And just breathe into the back. This is a wonderful twist. Just to squeeze out all the tension of our body. We're going to take 3 breaths here. And try to make sure both shoulders are on the floor. If it hurts the neck, you can look towards the knees. If not, look away from the knees. Inhale, bring the head back, bring the knees back. Give yourself a little hug again. Notice how that feels. Rock from side to side, back and forth. And then let's go to the other side. So turn to the other side. Bring the arms out, the knees in line with the hips. And as you exhale, open into the T again. Look away from your knees. If that hurts the neck, look towards the knees. If it doesn't, you can look away. 3 deep breaths here, twisting out all of our tension. And then come back to center. Give yourself one more hug. Rock and roll the spine. And then come down for our rest pose, Shavasana. And we're going to just do a little relaxation technique. So we're going to squeeze the feet as much as you can. Squeeze, 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 and release. Squeeze the legs, squeeze, 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 and release. Squeeze the arms, squeeze, 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 make fists, squeeze, 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 and release. Squeeze the belly and the chest, squeeze, 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 and release. Squeeze the face, squeeze, 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 and release. Squeeze the whole body, nice and tense, 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 and release. Take 3 breaths here, just noticing how the body feels. Allowing the whole body to be relaxed and hold no tension. 2 more breaths here. And then when you're ready, draw your knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a hug. And rock and roll up to seated. Bring your hands to your heart. And the same way we ended, bringing some gratitude into our practice, breathing it in, feeling that gratitude all through our body. And then exhale, breathing it out. I say namaste to you. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And now we're flexible. Do that every day for the best practice.